Welcome to the Unofficial Steelers Podcast, the podcast so unofficial it doesn't have a home. Here's your host, from In Hindsight, Nathan Heights. From Steelers Nation Australia, Mark Davison. And from State of the Steelers, Daniel J. Here we go.
What is up, Steeler fans? Welcome back to another episode of the Unofficial Steelers Podcast. I'm Daniel. Alongside with me is Nathan. How's it going, my man? How excited are you that the Pittsburgh Steelers have another game to play this week?
I'm not too bad, man. Weather out here freaking sucks. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Freaking sucks. Ready for spring. I feel like once December is over, ready to transition into that. But I'm glad that they live another day, man. I'm glad they live another day, another week. We'll see how it goes, but hey, they got in just like every other team tries to do, and they're gonna get a shot, and hopefully that they can make it a little fun on Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. They're heavily underdogs, or the Buffalo Bills are heavily favored. Let me put it that way. Doesn't seem like there's nobody's giving them a chance. All the mainstream media pundits are saying that the Buffalo Bills are going to eliminate the Pittsburgh Steelers in crazy fashion, that it's going to be some sort of blowout. Right. Now, I know that it's going to be an uphill battle. TJ Watt was ruled out today. The Steelers are 1-10 without him. But I think that the depth right now, with Herbig and Golden, it's not obviously going to be, the same quality as what we would be expected from TJ Watt. But I don't think the drop-off is going to be as bad as it's been when the only option was a Cassius Marsh. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, Cassius Marsh.
Yeah, like there was times where he was legitimately the third guy. So long are those days. We have some guys that I think that can, show up. How do you think that I think it's a 10-point, split right now at the Buffalo Bills are favored by? Do you find that disrespectful, or do you think it's right on par?
I think 10's pushing it a little bit. I think 10's pushing a little bit, given all things considered and the way the weather is and all that kind of stuff like that. Obviously, they're rightful to be favored. I think maybe if you hit it that maybe 7.5 mark, 8.5 mark, I think that can be okay. But 10 and Vegas kind of having the idea it's going to be a blowout, I disagree.
Right. Yeah, Minka coming back, KZ coming back, that's going to be helpful. Miles Jack has another week under his belt, to go along with another game for Elandon Roberts, who, is playing. He's a crazy man for being out there. Let's just put it that way. He has a pec injury, and in my opinion, we need him. I mean, the drop off is too far. There's only so many middle linebackers you can lose before it starts to affect you. You know what I mean? And so, with that being said, I just think that they're also being disrespected, even though I'll put it this way. I did make a prediction, and we'll talk about our predictions later. We'll talk about them later. Yeah. But, I think that putting them up by 10 as, the line for Vegas, that's pretty crazy. I mean, maybe they know something we don't. Let's look at the injury report real quick. The only player that's going to be out for the Pittsburgh Steelers is TJ Watt. Everybody else is going to be good to go, in my opinion. Isaac Seumalo hasn't participated because of a shoulder injury, but that's been the consistent thing with him. He's taken a few days off every week for the last few weeks. So, but if you go and look at Buffalo Bills, I mean, they already got some people out. Gabe Davis out with a knee. Safety Taylor Rapp out with a calf. They're still questionable are still Rasul Douglas and Terrell Dotson. How do you think that those type of injuries are going to have an effect on this game?
I don't think it's going to have too much of an effect. Gabe Davis is somebody who's honestly he's replaceable. He's a replaceable player in Buffalo. He's not that special of a player. Taylor Rapp starts for them at safety, but the Bills defense is coming out with the Steelers running the football. And as long as they got their front in there, that's exactly what you want for them. I don't think that these injuries for them are game changing, honestly, if I'm be straight honest. I don't.
Interesting. I think the Gabe Davis one and Rasul Douglas are going to be the two big ones. They also have an issue at tackle. They've been banged up, but they're going to be playing. I believe one of them has like a hand injury. I'm not sure what the other one has, if anything, but I know that Deion Dawkins has had a hand and he's not practiced the last few days. He practiced yesterday in a walkthrough. He's going to be in the game, but Gabe Davis was a guy that last year, he destroyed the Pittsburgh Steelers, and this year, when you look at how the defenses when they've bended, because it's been a bend but don't break defense. When it's been to that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3. It's not been to the wide receiver 1, and so I think that him being out is going to be huge because he is that wide receiver 2 that I felt was probably going to have a big game, especially given the fact that the Bills have 2 tight ends that are more than capable of doing some damage to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they have a running game. And given the circumstances with the weather that's going on, I felt that that third or second wide receiver, you have Stephon Diggs that the Steelers going to have to take care of, the tight ends, and make sure that the running backs don't get you. I thought that, if Gabe Davis was in this game, going up against Patrick Peterson or Levi Wallace one-on-one with his speed was going to be a bad matchup for the Steelers. So with him out, I do think that favors the Steelers. And with Rasul Douglas, he was I think he's like their number 1 cornerback. So, he's got some knee issues. Now, how's that going to affect him when he has to cut if he's, going up against Deontay Johnson? Or is he going to be able to keep up with a George Pickens down the field? Or if they even bring in Calvin Austin, who I think might have himself a game this week. I mean, I think that those injuries right there could play a pretty big role. On the Steelers side, obviously, not having TJ Watt is going to be a big role. Do you think that the fact that the Steelers have or are without TJ Watt, is that more damaging to the Steelers than the 4 players that are questionable / out for the Bills?
Yeah, it is. The Steelers don't win without TJ Watt. And Buffalo is a team that can definitely overcome those 2 injuries that they have. TJ Watt's too important. They have a little bit better depth in there than they did last year when he was out. But still, there's a reason why he might win Defensive Player of the Year. There's a reason why he's arguably the best defensive player in football. So not having him, especially against a team like Buffalo, definitely stings, man. And you can't overlook that. You can't at all. With everybody listing Buffalo's going to have to try to run the football with James Cook, but they're probably going to, Josh Allen's somebody as well that likes to take some chances and likes to be a little reckless. And the thing I'll give the Steelers a benefit on is in this type of climate, this type of weather, it's not something that will, let me just say the football is not necessarily going to be safe in this type of weather. So if Josh Allen's going to have one of his games where he has a turnover or 2, that's something that's on the table. But I'm not really too looking in too much with Buffalo's injury report, man. I think that there's enough there for them to be able to stop this Steelers offense 100%. Especially if the Steelers are going to run the football, which they definitely are, of course, obviously. Buffalo's got their front there, and they're probably going to, I would definitely try to get Mason Rudolph to throw it in this type of weather, because it ain't going to be pretty.
The thing with that, though, is I think Buffalo has allowed some teams to run all over them. They have a front, they have a line, but they also like to play in nickel a lot and have a lot of defensive backs out there. And if that's something that they continue to do, I think it was 90% of their snaps are in nickel. And so, that ends up being the case, and they do that in this game. I strongly feel like we can run it down their throat, especially with a back like Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren.
Yeah. No,
now Warren's going to have to protect.
Sure.
Yeah. Now Warren's going to have to protect the ball. I think that there's the possibility there that the Pittsburgh Steelers can come up with the upset. Is it going to be something that I think happens 9 out of 10 times? No, I don't think so. But I do think that this team probably can beat the Buffalo Bills, whether it's a snow game or a regular game. Maybe 4 out of those 10 times, maybe even 5. I think that Josh Allen puts the ball up, and I think the Steelers are they are optimistic when it comes to getting some turnovers. When the ball is up in the air, they'll come down with it. We have some ball hawks. Returning is Deontay KZ. He's a guy that likes to catch the ball. He'll intercept it. Minka Fitzpatrick is a guy that hasn't had an interception this year. Made the Pro Bowl. I don't know how, but he made the Pro Bowl. But he's a guy that can go up there and get the ball played right. The fact that they have what's his name, Eric Rowe coming in, and him being a guy that I think you can use in the box, make him that third safety that the Steelers wanted to run these 3 safety set. Put him in the box. He can be the box safety and have DeMonte Casey and Minka Fitzpatrick, ball hawk behind it.
Yeah.
If Allen, he's going to try anything. He's going to hold on to the ball long.
Absolutely.
And he's going to throw across his body. He's going to throw down the field because he thinks he can make every throw. And I think the Steelers can take advantage of those situations. I very much think that this game is very much winnable. I think the Steelers match up pretty well against this Buffalo team right now, with and without their injuries and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Earlier on in the year, when everybody was healthy, that's probably a different story. But right now, I do think the Steelers can kind of muster up a possible win here. I mean, let's kind of look at the quarterback situation. Mason Rudolph over the last 3 weeks statistically has been the best quarterback in the NFL. Now, it's a small sample size, but if he gets this one done, he takes care of this one, takes care of the ball again, no interceptions. I mean, I'm not even thinking he scores or throws a touchdown, but if he can get the team into the red zone and get a couple of Najee rushing touchdowns, I think that's well worth it. But if he can go out there and do something like that, come up with maybe 160 yards again, no interceptions, I do think the Steelers can win. And I think that there has to be a conversation there about Mason Rudolph at that point, as far as the possibility of bringing him back. What are your thoughts on how Mike Tomlin has kind of handled the Mason Rudolph being the starting quarterback situation? I'm not sure if you'd seen the press conference, but he was asked, why Kenny Pickett's still listed as QB1, and he came back with a little bit of an aggressive answer. Why do you think that that's the case right now? What's going on with that?
It's a good question, Daniel. Real quick, French, that I'm going to get the chat here for just a second. Welcome everybody in. Mark Garcia, welcome in, man. Appreciate you tuning into the show. You said you're new here, so we thank you for your support. Daniel and I go live once a week at least, and we flip back and forth between our channels. As you can see, my channel next to my name here. Welcome in, man. Good to see you. Good to see everybody else. Jared Devil, Afton, Steelers Freak. Nathan, come to Vegas for a vacation. Dude, I haven't been to Vegas since 8th grade. Wonder how much of it's changed. Yes, Minka Fitzpatrick being back is big for them. It's going to be good to see him. Afton, as always, thank you all so much. Steelers Girl, it's been a while since we've seen you in here. Hope you're doing well. Viper, Derpy, good to see you guys. Let's see here. Deja Vu. Yep, always good to see you back. Bobby J. Anybody new in here? Maze X, what's up? Guys, always keep putting your thoughts in here. Daniel and I always come to the chat, see what you guys are talking about. Steelers Freak, Harris was drafted for games like this. Absolutely, he has. He's been great this past month. It's good to see him finishing off the year the way he did. Steel City Blue, Rudy's going to get the bag. We'll see. We'll see, man. We'll see. Afton, new background, new studio. It's a new studio, Afton. So, but yeah, Daniel, to answer your question, man, in terms of how Mike Tomlin has approach this whole thing has been a little it's been a little weird. It's been a little weird. I personally don't think that he is giving Mason a big endorsement. I don't think he is. He refers to Mason as the hot hand, and I don't think that it hasn't come off as this level of excitement or optimism of possibly having something there you didn't know you didn't have. And with kind of the way with Kenny, it comes off, at least I think to most of us, it comes off he's trying to keep Kenny's confidence. He's trying to kind of keep Kenny in the bag, maybe trying to make Kenny feel like, okay, this is still your team, but right now we're just got to do this, and you're going to come back next year for an opportunity, right? Blah, blah, blah. To me, with what I see there, that's how it comes off to me, is that he still doesn't trust Mason. He still hasn't fully given his confidence into him, and he wants to kind of coddle his first round pick and hope to kind of keep Kenny confident about his future here, and that it's quote unquote like you're still the guy we believe in. Does that make sense? That's how it comes off to me. That's how it comes off to me. And
what about the
until other notice, that's how I read it.
what about the rumors that, and those are rumors too, but it came from a pretty solid source that prior to Matt Canada's release, the Steelers were thinking about benching Kenny Pickett.
Right. Yeah, I know we've talked about that.
And you have that situation. You also have the possibility of him complaining. He doesn't want to be back up. And he came on his presser and he tried to, he tried to clear it up.
Well, I know, we got to hold everybody's hand here. We got to hold everybody's hand. We got to freaking change the diapers and wipe the ass and everything else. So, it doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, but my thing is, if it is Kenny's like confidence that they don't want to shake, how easily shaken is it to be QB2 on the depth chart? Like, if that shakes your confidence,
right?
Like, what does that say, man? I
know. I hear you, man.
I expected more out of him.
You're a fan. I'm not defending Kenny. I'm not. I'm just saying what I think. It comes off to me as Mike Tomlin. It's not my opinion.
Yeah, it's just, I agree with you. I think that Tomlin is doing two things. One, he's trying to, let his starting quarterback know that, or his future quarterback possibly, even if he's still around. There's been rumors that he's going to be leaving after the season as well. I think if he's gone,
it's very interesting.
Yeah, I think if he's gone, I think so. Probably the Kenny Pickett project is gone as well.
I agree, and it should be gone, Daniel.
Yeah, I
don't care what anybody says. It's over. It's over.
Right.
Move on.
And if he ends up coming back, and there's going to be an off season, and depending on how long the Steelers are still in it, and let's just say that Mason takes us to the promised land, gets number 7. How much do you think his contract is going to be worth? I think he's going to.
Are you asking if Mason takes us all the way?
Yeah, if Mason takes it all the way, how much do you think he's going to want in the offseason? He's going to want a $25 million contract a year. Easy.
Well, yeah, he's definitely going to want to be up there 100%. If the guy would play well, hypothetically, with this question, hypothetically, if he would do that and play well, of course.
Yeah.
100%.
And, I think, me personally, right now I think that they're at $17 million over the cap next year. You cut Trubisky, that's another $8 million. So I think they can come up with it. They can massage the cap.
See you later, dude.
Oh, I don't know, man. How hard is it
for Mitch?
Oh yeah, for Mitch, that guy's gone.
See, get the freak out of here.
For me, I was thinking about it, and I was like, if Mason really shows up, whether it's in this game or even next game, let's just say he plays this game next week, he's competitive, but the Steelers lose just because, Baltimore's too high powered, but it's a shootout and Mason does well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you have to build off that. You have to give him a chance because it's very hard to find a guy at quarterback, possible franchise guy. Now, I'm not saying pay him $25 million or any of those type of things, but I do think maybe you give him something with that you can get out of next year, the following year. You know what I'm saying? Just to kind of prove it and give him, that big contract for the year. But I think that if he does it this week, he does it next week, or even if he just does it this week and they end up losing in a similar fashion that I said, he plays well, but the defense just can't do their part.
Yeah.
Like that's a quarter of a season of good play.
Right.
Now that's not a fluke, in my opinion.
You can't overlook it.
Yeah,
That's
it's a quarter of a season, great play, and it kind of becomes the question, like maybe this is who he has become, and in a certain extent, that can also, you can look at Kenny and kind of say maybe he can have a similar path, be around, back up for a little bit, learn the game, let it slow down for you, and then maybe perhaps when he's ready, he can come back in, if given the opportunity, right? But I mean, I'll be honest with you. You think Kenny Pickett wins that game last week in that rain? Do you think Kenny Pickett has a chance against the Bills with that wind with his arm?
Probably not, Daniel. Let's be honest.
So, I mean, you got a guy that, has been here for a long time.
He's ultimately kind of like what you said before. There just hasn't really been that ultimate opportunity there. He got that in 19, but he wasn't very polished either. But there was, and I've said, like, I feel like if the Steelers really saw something in him over the years, they would try to get him out there. But even just in the sense of like he's doing, it's not like he's blowing everybody's socks off or anything. He's just giving you average quarterback play. But with the fact that he's giving you that and the other quarterbacks haven't, but Mike Tomlin still doesn't really want to give Mason really that full on credit. I feel like is there just really a narrative there? You know what I mean? Is there some type of just favoritism ultimately, or he just doesn't like him? Like, what is it? Because he's your best quarterback right now.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that was one of my questions, or one of my subjects. For those that don't know, I'm part of Steel Curtain Network, formerly known as Behind the Steel Curtain. I do Monday podcast live on YouTube on Steel Curtain Network with Shannon White called The Hangover. And I also do a Friday audio only podcast called State of the Steelers, obviously, for Steel Curtain Network, which is a part of FFSN. And, in that was part of my conversation. And I forgot what I was going to say. What was it that you just said right now?
For what?
What was the last thing I'd asked you?
About Mason's contract?
Nah, I can't remember. I was going somewhere with that. It was part of what I was saying. Oh, yeah. It was about Mason. When Tomlin said that, would it make you feel better if I put Mason as QB1 on the depth chart? My initial thought was, does it matter? It doesn't. But who does it matter to? Mason Rudolph. Do you think that it would make him feel better knowing that he has the confidence of his head coach, knowing that he has the confidence of the organization, knowing that he is a guy that they're going to be looking to, and that the leash isn't going to be X amount of feet short? Right. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
for sure.
You feel good, you play good.
Yeah.
I would want him to feel as good as possible.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. What kind of team is that if you're just not going to endorse your quarterback?
Yeah, exactly. And so, that was my biggest, one of my biggest issues with it, and with how Mike Tomlin is handling the situation. Kevin Dotson is a guy that went to Los Angeles, who's become, I think, like an all-pro guard out there. He couldn't even make it on the first team here unless it was due to injury and stuff like that, or he was battling against Kendrick Green. Even him, he did well outside of Pittsburgh. But one of the things that he said that was the difference between Tomlin and Coach McVay was that Tomlin emphasized on the negativity. He wanted to motivate people by being negative about them.
Right.
And, like if you did good, it's all right. You did good, but you messed up here. Let's fix this and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And in Los Angeles, it was more like positive influence. Like, hey.
Yeah. And everybody's different, man. Like you look at that situation, and we'll get back to the chat here in a second, guys, see what you guys are talking about. Like with Kevin Dotson and with what he's kind of said, like players, a lot of players we hear love playing for Tomlin, which is great. And all those kind of things, but not every player is that way either. Like they're all different. And maybe just the way Kevin Dotson was here in his interaction and experience with Mike Tomlin, it was just different for him, and there just wasn't that connect that a lot of other guys have had. And he goes on to Sean McVay, and there's a lot better of a connection. There's a lot better of a sure, just aside from the football field, but a lot better for, at least in his case, better relationship ultimately. And it's different for every player with how they each coaches, how they're approached, what they like, what they don't like, and that's just, that's probably a big thing for him. It just, there wasn't that buy-in here. There wasn't that, like I said, kind of coach-player relationship that other guys have. Is what it is. I'm glad he's
You know,
doing well.
right. And I agree with you to a certain extent that, not everybody's the same. It's just that, kids today, early 20s, they've not been talked to or, had those type of adversity in their life slash, they've been the MVP of their team. If they made it all the way to the NFL, they were the MVP of their Pee Wee team, the MVP of their middle school team, the MVP of their high school team. Right.
Yeah.
And in a day where you get, participation trophies, I don't know how, maybe with
Coddle's a good word for it,
today's
sure.
players, with today's players might be a little bit more sensitive to the fact that to negativity and need more of that positive reinforcement. With Kevin Dotson, he said that, his coaches would come up to him and say, "Hey, you're great, running or rushing, offensive lineman." They put on tape showing, when he was dominant, and he's like, "Look, you can do this then, you can do this now, you can do this consistently," and that's how he got through it.
Yeah.
I just think that, maybe perhaps in the early 2000s, you had some, players that had a little bit more adversity growing up, even though they were also probably the MVPs of all those, sports or whatnot. There was competition. There was more competition because there was, a first place trophy. There was,
Right.
Things like that you wanted to get. And, times have changed. I think that, I mean, shoot, look at how these kids talk nowadays. They go and delete everything off their social media.
Yep.
I mean, you wouldn't have, Ben Roethlisberger wouldn't have done that. I mean, if he wanted
AJ
to
Brown
put
just
out a
did that
message,
today, man.
yeah,
He
exactly.
didn't even
That's
show up to
how.
practice today.
That is exactly how, today's generation of young 20-year-olds
Freaking
are.
entitlement, dude. It's ridiculous. It's freaking ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. So, when you have those type of issues going on, I think it's going to take an effect, and maybe perhaps it requires a different mentality as far as coaching goes. It's not the same as 17 years ago when Coach T started. Those players aren't the same. A lot of those guys, especially on the defensive side, were, had been there a while. I mean, even the offensive side. And so they were up there in age. In fact, when they ended up going back in 2010, they were super old by then, like majority of them. And a lot of them started to retire shortly after, outside of the offensive line. I'm talking about the defensive side, your Palomalus, your Beard, Aaron Smith, of the world. So Kiesels. But yeah, I just think that maybe perhaps a different way of coaching. But speaking on coaching, some rumors going on that he might, take off at the end of the year. Do you foresee that happening? Do you think that that's actual possibility, or do you think that it could be just rumors flying around?
This is something, I'm going to get to the chat and answer that, but this is something that I'm excited about this Steelers offseason. This is their biggest offseason in quite a while, and I'm very excited about it because there's going to be a lot of things to talk about. You guys are going to hear every rumor in the book, believe me. You're going to hear every rumor in the book out there. So I'll get to your question here. There's a couple new people have come in the chat. Say what's up to them real quick.
Where you at? And I'll start
What do
putting
we
up.
got? What do we got? Right where, go to Viper where he says Mason never got a fair chance. Yeah, he really didn't. So this really honestly was really his last chance in the league, and he's shown that he deserves to be in this league, man, one way or another. Let's see what we got. Come on.
Yeah, I was way back.
Yeah. Mark Lancaster, what's up, man? Appreciate tuning in the show. Do you think Kenny will be mentally prepared if his numbers gets called? Probably. But I think we all kind of hope it probably doesn't happen. But to answer your question, I mean, probably he's a pro. It seems like that he's kind of accepting this part for now on his behalf. So, let's see here. Let's see. Yeah, Jeremiah, what's up, man? Good to see you. Just win, baby. Let's go Steelers. Yep, it's going to be interesting. We'll see how it goes.
And thank
Deja
you,
vu,
R2
NFL
Malibu.
coaching situations up for grabs. Yes, it's very. There's about right now like 8 coaching vacancies, and by the end of the year there could be 10 or 11. It's gonna be interesting.
I want to welcome R2 Malibu to the becoming the newest member on YouTube. I'm going to be doing some member only stuff here coming up. I hadn't done it yet because we hadn't really built up our members list. I think I got like 3 or 4 now going on. So if you guys are interested in that, hit that join button. I'll probably be, you know what I'll do on Tuesdays when the all 22 comes out, I'll do a members only live, and we'll pick out the plays that I'm going to use for, for my breakdown of videos. So it won't be the actual video of, what we're going to break down, but we'll look at a few plays and discuss what we're going to talk about. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff and looking at the all 22, hit that like and subscribe or sorry about that, hit that join button. We'll be doing that, probably next week, as soon as this game is over. We'll go into the all 22 and we'll do that. And in the off season, we'll look back at a few different plays throughout the year, stuff like that. So if you're interested in that, hit that join button. Appreciate it. Thank you again,
Malvo. It's definitely appreciated. It's good to see you, man. Hopefully you're doing well. Mark Garcia, what about this Russell Wilson crap? Believe me, Mark, that's not going to be the only rumor you hear, man. There's going to be a lot of rumors this offseason. You're going to hear every rumor in the book. Let's see.
Thank you.
Robert Gearhart, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks for tuning in, man. I hope Mason says bye-bye and comes to the Raiders. Well, they're another team as well that's going to be looking around. So you never know. I don't think it's 100% certain Mason comes back next year. Who else we got?
Yeah, that's here's the thing. I know you mentioned earlier that you said that, if Tomlin, and the Steelers had seen this stuff, why didn't they go to Rudolph earlier in practice? Things like that. Yeah, I think that there are some politics that go beyond things. Paying Mitch Trubisky the amount of money that they're paying him per year, giving Kenny Pickett a first round, using a first round pick on Kenny Pickett, probably is another reason why, regardless of what he did, he was not going to be looked at unless there was some injuries or you had a break glass type of situation, which you can kind of say that was the case both of those were the case this year. But I think it was Ramon Foster had said that there's been players that have been kept on the third string or in practice squad, and that Tomlin be like, we need to hide those guys, for them not to go somewhere else and be a problem somewhere else. I'm not sure if I like that strategy for the player, just because you're kind of handcuffing them. But I think that maybe Mason was one of those guys that they saw, and he did well, but they politics took over. They had to pay. They paid Mitch Trubisky, they drafted Kenny, and they didn't really give him a fair shot. I think that they also may have listened to some of the noise that the fans were saying, the boos. Remember in preseason, just Mason walking out on the dang field, he got booed for being the second string quarterback. Yeah. So those type of things, I think play a role. Will they play a role to keep him?
It definitely does. And that's for every team. That's 100% for every team, man. There's stuff like that, political stuff, kind of things you've listed. It ain't just the Steelers.
Yeah.
It goes for every team. Christian, we appreciate donation, man. Good to see you in the chat. Thanks for coming in, man. Let me tell the world, Mason's going to shock the world. He's been through hell and back with his organization. He will stay because it's his time. Yeah, Yeah, this was his last shot, man. This was his last shot, and I think he's shown he belongs in this league in some capacity, whatever that is. Um, this is easily the biggest task in his career. So uh, good for him that he's been a great teammate. He's just worked and put his head down. You can tell even just in some of the simple things that he's not the quarterback he was when he first came in. I mean, this is your 6th year now, so you would kind of hope that's the reality, but still, he's done things that neither of the other quarterbacks have done this year. And you got to give him credit, man. Got to give him credit for giving a spark to this team, man. He's definitely done it. Daniel, yeah, go ahead.
I do think that, and going back to this statement, Mason's going to shock the world. I think he can, man. I mean, like, I know a lot of people are saying and trying to take away from what he did the last 3 weeks. Some people are saying, oh, he played a bad Cincinnati defense or right. Seattle's defense, stank, or Baltimore played their backups.
Right.
I mean, the Steelers have played backups this year. Back in against the Packers, they played a backup secondary. Yep. The freaking special team scored more points than the offense in that game.
Yep.
The Cincinnati Bengals, Kenny Pickett played against them. And he put up some yards and stuff, but they only made 16 points. Results matter. All this talk where, I hear people say, oh, Kenny Pickett could have done this or could have done that. He had
could have, would have, should have,
X amount of yards.
It hasn't happened all year.
What it does to me, or what it tells me, especially when they look at the Cincinnati Bengals game, they're like, oh, if you look at this pass completion rate or this rate of completion or that or this, it sounds like people arguing that Myles Garrett is better than TJ Watt because of pass win rate or some crap like that. Yeah. That's what it sounds like. It sounds exactly like that. And to me, I'm just like, well, you can keep your stats that say
you got to look at the graph, Daniel. You got to look at the graph.
Right. I'm like,
it's
to
right
me,
there.
you can
that Myles Garrett graph, man. It's right in front of you.
You can keep those stats. Those percentage win rates. I'll keep the results. I like the results. I like TJ Watt going out there and raising havoc and getting sacks and making and forcing the offense of the opposing team, go second, third long, right? Push them out of field goal range, create a turnover. Yeah. Right. I want to see our quarterback put the ball in the receiver's hands in a position where that playmaker can do that, make a play.
Yep.
And that's the thing we weren't seeing before.
Yeah.
And, I just think that, given what he's done for the last 3 weeks, I mean, he's been better than every quarterback. Think of one. Think of any quarterback. Patrick Mahomes. Last 3 weeks, Mason Rudolph has been better than him. Josh Allen. Last 3 weeks, he's been better than him. Any of them, he's been the best. Yeah. And, you can only play the teams that are in front of you. This is going to be a big challenge. The wind is going to be crazy. Yeah. I think he has an arm that he can rifle the ball. That's one thing that he can do. Yeah. And I think that he can do so in this game. We got another donation. Thank you so much, Christian. 15213 with a $10 super chat. He says, I'm worried about T. Austin's defense. Eric Rowe, Golden, Nick Herbig, Cam Hayward, JPJ, and Highsmith, Patrick Peterson, and Minka Fitzpatrick. They have to have a hell of a day. Can T get them in the right positions early on? I think so. I mean, I know Terrell Lawson gets a lot of heat, and rightfully so. But last 3 weeks, he went up against Jake Browning, who had been putting up 300 yards every game, had been scoring 30 points up until that point, and then even after that, he put up another 30-point game with Cincinnati. I can't remember who the damn team they were playing, but the blemish, the biggest one, was against the Steelers defense with a banged up secondary.
Yeah.
Seattle had, Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and Metcalf, and they were able to kind of put a lid on it. I mean, Metcalf had his way here and there, but for the most part, they didn't kill the Steelers, right? Yeah. And, the Ravens don't, they're the Ravens. But, I mean, I don't know. I just think that maybe perhaps we don't give him enough credit and maybe put a little bit too much blame. But, I think that they'll be in position. What do you think? What do you think about the secondary? Do you think they're going to come in ready to rock and roll now that Minka Fitzpatrick is back. He's a big communicator. I think that's huge.
Yeah, he's a huge leader for this team, man. Minka's a Steeler through and through. I hope so. There's injuries there. Every team's gone through injuries this year. Still not having TJ Hurts, but we know how the Steelers are without him. But they have guys in the back that can make plays, and that at least gives some type of encouragement if Josh Allen wants to throw a heave, if Josh Allen wants to be a little careless with the ball. There are guys back there that can play that are smart enough to do that. And when you look at Minka being back, KZ being back, those are two guys they haven't had for however many weeks now. And having them back against a Bills team that is pass heavy, that loves to throw that football. Now the weather is a big thing, but still, they're still going to do that. I don't think they trust James Cook to get 25 carries. I don't think that. I know they got Leonard Fournette as well back there, who hasn't really played too much, but having some playmakers in your secondary back, especially against a Bills team that is prone to mistakes and guys that are on the ball, that play the ball well, that's definitely something in this type of matchup that hopefully could pay some dividends. We'll see. Real quick in the chat, man. Jason Mizuno, what's up? Good to see you in the chat. Thanks for coming in. Nick Herbig's drastically underrated. He's been making crucial plays despite his lack of snaps per game. Yeah, we're going to see a little bit more of him. He's got a good opportunity this game to have some more snaps in there. Maybe he can make one of those plays that he's made over the last few weeks. Heck, being able to sit behind TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith, that's something that can go a long way. Let's see what else, guys. What else you guys saying? How the Steelers cover the Bills tight ends will be big. Yep, Dawson Knox and Kincaid. They like to use them. Let's see here.
Wow, thank you, Ray. We appreciate you.
Yeah, Ray.
$9.99 super sticker.
Thanks for the donation. Thanks for the donation toward the channel, man.
Here's what I know. I know that after the Baltimore game, Pittsburgh Steelers got a little bit of a heartbeat going. It sounded kind of funny, but it was there. I think that heartbeat gets louder if they win. It was, that heartbeat kind of goes a little like something like that. Just real quiet at first. You know what I mean? And then, here we go. That heartbeat's gonna be loud. This Steelers go in there and
that's awesome.
Let's talk about some predictions. Let's talk about over-unders and things like that. Well, just predictions. How many yards do you think Mason Rudolph is going to throw this weekend?
That's a good question. Yes, Daniel does do a great job on his all 22 guys. He posts that weekly. So if you haven't tuned into that, if you like some of that more in-depth breakdown, definitely tune into that. He definitely does a great job.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
How many yards Mason's going to have? Well, we know the Steelers are going to really try to run this football. It's going to be windy. It's not going to be an ideal condition by any means. I'm going to say under 200 yards. I'm going to say under 200 yards. I think the Steelers are really going to try to focus in on that run level and try to get Warren and Najee both implemented. They're going to have to throw the ball, but I think the conditions playing in Buffalo, the way they're going to have to play, I could even see them trying to be a little careful with him, just given the fact that this is his fourth game this year. It's his first playoff game. I mean, really at this point, what do you have to lose? Who cares? Yeah, if you have some opportunity to try to move the ball a little bit, do it. Mason's probably got the best arm out of any of those guys, but given the fact that really with this situation and what I think their game plan is going to be going into it, and even probably throughout this game, I'm going to go under 200. But I don't think he's going to be careless. I don't think he's going to kill the team.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm going with around 185. I think he does. I think he has a little bit better of a game than he did.
Yeah,
as far as stats.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if you can get some yak man on there, I mean, for sure.
Yeah, I think he's going to have more opportunities than he did in Baltimore, especially down the field. I think Baltimore just the rain is different than the snow. You know,
Yeah.
the ball is a lot more slippery. As a case example, how many times both teams put it on the ground last week?
Darnell
So
Washington on some yak, man.
that'd be
Oh,
nice.
that'd be awesome. That'd be awesome.
But I'm going also with about 185 yards.
Good enough. Good
I
enough.
don't know if he's going to throw any touchdowns. I honestly think that if they get into the money zone, they're probably going to, play for, running it down in there.
Yeah.
So I don't think
I agree.
unless somebody takes something down the distance on a screen or on
Yeah.
a jet sweep toss,
Yeah.
in front of him, and that goes a distance. I'm not
Yeah.
seeing anything too crazy. I do
Yeah.
think they're going to try it though. They're going to push the ball down the field, just to try to keep the Bills defense honest.
Sure. Sure.
I'm not sure, how smart it against this win, but I do think they're going to try to do it. We'll see how that works. What about the rushing game? How many yards? Well, we'll do this more like, if the Steelers are going to win, what do you expect out of the running backs?
Well, if the Steelers want to win this game, Najee and Jalen got to do what they've been doing these last 3 weeks, 4 weeks or so. One of them has got to have over 100 yards. I honestly think for them to win this football game, and if they're going to be really heavy on utilizing those two guys, don't turn the ball over, secure the football, probably over 200 total rushing yards. And if you find yourself in the end zone at least a couple times, you better get your ass in there, because kicking these field goals, settling for field goals ain't going to do it. Yeah, Steelers Freak says 200 rush yards total. Yeah, I agree. Yep. Well, over 200 plus yards total on the ground, probably securing the football. That's what you're gonna have to do, especially in this type of weather. I don't see Buffalo just having a field day. I really don't. Josh Allen's probably gonna have a couple, 1 or 2 risky plays. I think they are gonna try to run the football a little bit. Josh Allen as well is another threat that runs the football. I could see Josh Allen getting in open space and getting some yards on this defense. I really do. Yep, Afton. Yep, exactly. So that's a little bit of a concern on my end for him as well. Not just that he has a rocket and that he can be careless, but there's a reason why there's some games he gets over 70 plus rushing yards.
Yeah, I agree. For me, I think it's 200 all-purpose yards between the two backs. Because I think that the passing to the backs is going to be and probably a huge amount of what the passes are going to be in this game, to the running backs, to the tight ends, short intermediate area because of the wind and the weather. So I think that 200 plus yards, all purpose yards, whether it's rushing or passing or receiving, I think that's kind of where they need to be if they're going to end up over that, if they want to end up winning this game. Let's jump over to the defensive side. How many times did the Pittsburgh Steelers have to get to Josh Allen if they want to win this game?
How many times?
Yeah, how many sacks are they going to have to get?
Well, if you talk to Browns fans, it's all about pressures, right? It's about how many times you pressure the quarterback, right? Instead of actually finishing the play. They're going to have to be disruptive, man. Without TJ Watt, they're going to have to be disruptive. They can't let him watch a movie back there. They got to be disruptive. Afton says 3. Steelers Freak says 3.5, 3-4 sacks, a couple turnovers. Yeah, they're probably going to have to try to get a couple. I'll say 4, and maybe 1 or 2 of those you can get some good field position out of.
So who do you think are getting those sacks? Who's going to step up and get that?
Right, that's the thing too. I don't know. Maybe if they shoot a linebacker up the middle or something unexpectedly. They've done a couple times with Minka where they shot him right up the middle. They might have to. They might maybe use a safety. Just in terms of catching off guard, but in terms of just the normal rush, like to see KZ unleash some frustration with a nice legal hit.
That'd be nice.
Yeah, Highsmith's gonna have to step up, and there's been, I think a lot of people have been concerned with him this year with Sometimes TJ Watt not being there. Highsmith's gonna have to step up. Maybe a little bit of pressure between Herbig and Marcus Golden taking the place. You're gonna have to do that, but I think there might have to be a time or two in this game where you send an unexpected guy that maybe you try to throw Josh Allen off, or Josh Allen doesn't expect that guy to come. Whether that's a cornerback blitz, whether that's a shot up the middle, I'm not really sure, but I think one of those things we might see too.
I agree. I think they're going to end up getting somewhere around 4. I think Herbig is going to show up, man. He's somebody that hasn't put a lot of tape out there,
man. It's a big game.
Yeah, he hasn't put a lot of tape out there, and when he has been out there, he's done some good stuff. He has a large laundry list of moves that he can go to, at any given time. I like his ability to finish. I think Golden is also going to probably come down with one, and I think I'm going to say Miles Jack. He had one not too long ago, running up the middle.
Would you bring him back next year if he wants to play?
I think I would, dude. Just as an insurance. I think I'm going to try to get somebody in the draft, maybe somebody young. Maybe, if you bring him back, you don't necessarily have to go first, second round with a middle linebacker. You might be able to get somebody in the third.
Holcomb, Roberts, Jack, and then either a free agent / a draft pick, one of the guys.
Yeah. Holcomb, Roberts, Jack. Yeah, that's exactly who. I don't think Quan Alexander is going to come back.
I don't think so either, man. I don't think so either. It is. He's had 2 Achilles injuries already, and it's too bad. It's too bad.
I know I'm not a professional athlete, but I've had an Achilles rupture. It's you're not the same.
Yeah. One of those off the couch guys needs to get a sack, is what Ray says. Watt being out may make Buffalo a little overconfident. His defense different last time he played. Yeah, they are. They are Viper. Yes, they are. They're getting guys back, best that they can. Let's see here. Jason asks in terms of his concern for Warren getting the ball, with his 2 fumbles that might if it might hinder him getting the ball. Maybe situationally it could, just given the weather as well. But I don't think we'll see much of in terms of his snaps. I feel like that they'll kind of keep it where they've had it, but maybe situationally it could be, depending on where they're at in the field. One
of my biggest keys to victory, I think, is going to be the extra points. Mm-hmm. The wind is going to be huge. Do you think that we're going to see some more 2-point conversion attempts versus field goals in this game as the extra point, given the fact that it is a 32-yard attempt?
Right.
Wind gusts of 55 miles an hour.
Yeah.
If you think about it, if one team, if both teams score 2 touchdowns, but one team's able to put up, 2 2-point conversions.
Yeah.
You're down by more than a field goal at that point to come back. So it's going to be pivotal, in my opinion, those 2-point conversions. I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to keep a close eye on. I think whoever, makes those conversions probably wins this game.
Yeah. That's an interesting take. I didn't even think about that either, Daniel, in terms of the field goal game. I did not think about that. And even the Chiefs game, man, it's not good weather for that. It's not at all for that Chiefs game. So that's going to be interesting too. To go back to your question about Mike Tomlin that I did not answer, in terms of the rumors being out there that he could take a break. Well, that's all it is really rumors. If I'm going to put money on something, I'm going to say he plays out that 1-year deal that he's got left, and then he'll make a decision next year. But that's what's a big thing that's going to be a big story this offseason. I don't know. What do you guys think in the chat? You guys think Tomlin's come back next year? You think he's going to take a break? If I'm gonna bet on something, I'm gonna say he plays out that 1 year on his contract. I'm gonna say he finishes out his contract.
I think that in conversation, it's probably been said that something to the effect that maybe perhaps he has had more years behind him than in front of him, type of thing, where, it's obviously he's not going to be coaching for the next 17 years. It's less than that. Is it, I don't think he's talking now about what he might be doing in the off season. This guy is so singularly focused. in my opinion, that he's not thinking about what he's going to do in the offseason during the time when he's in a playoff run.
Right.
So I think it's just that. I think it's rumors. Maybe perhaps maybe Glazer's trying to up his contract, do it for a friend. Like, hey, you might take a year off. And then the Roonies are like, hey, what can we do to keep you from taking a year off? Right. You know what I mean? And then a little extra couple zeros there might help. So, I think that could be a possibility. But yeah, I think he's going to be back next year.
Yeah,
I do. I'd be more surprised.
These guys in the chat are saying the same thing. They think he'll play at least that 1 year.
Yeah. And I mean, it depends. If Mason goes all the way, though, and the Steelers make it the Steelers get number 7 this year. Oh, maybe he will. I mean, it's go out on top. Know what I mean?
Yeah.
So maybe
I don't know.
Let's get to some predictions and then the prediction of the game, guys. Let us know what you think as far as the score goes. But I want to hear some predictions of what you think is going to happen in the game and then the score.
Let us know your scores, guys, and the predictions. If you guys got some bold ones, let us know. Heck, give us a Super Bowl pick. Give us a Super Bowl pick as well, given the fact that they are. It is that time of year in the NFL playoffs. So.
Everybody going to choose the Steelers.
Yeah, of course.
So what are some predictions you think are going to happen?
What's that?
So what do you think are some things that are going to happen in this game?
Well, I think it's going to be sloppy. I think the game's going to be sloppy. It's going to be I don't think it's going to be that high scoring. I think it's going to be sloppy. I think it's going to be a field position game. I hope that there's actual snow on the ground and they don't just clear off the field and it's all melted and everything. I actually would like to see a game like that. I think that'd be kind of fun. But I think we're going to see some sloppy play. I think that we'll see 1 or 2 mistakes from Josh Allen that we usually see each week. I think Mason takes care of the ball, but he doesn't really do anything crazy or anything. I think I think we'll kind of look at him like, okay, he did what he had to do. Steelers are going to focus around the ball. I think that they're going to do a pretty good job with that, given the Bills' struggles at running the football. And the Bills know that the Steelers are going to do that. But the Steelers have one of the best running games in the league right now. They got a really good 2-headed backfield. That's something that I don't think they should take lightly. There was one person in the chat, I think it was might have been Bob, said that if there's an opportunity there to since Mason can throw a pretty tight ball, he has confidence it can really hit that target. And yeah, definitely can. If you can get one of those slant routes or things that you've had before in previous games, 100%. So I think we'll see some of that. I think that we'll see the Steelers defense kind of do a pretty good job overall against Buffalo. I don't think Buffalo's going to run the ball all too well. I think that they're going to try to rely on Josh Allen to try to make some plays in the cold weather, and it might come back and bite them in the ass. But I think overall, I don't think I think it'll be a sloppy game, but not an ugly game, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. I think that it's going to be sloppy in the sense of just kind of really the weather, the type of play style that's going on. You might see a few turnovers throughout that. But I also think that it will be a more closer game and a pretty interesting game in the sense of it could come down in the fourth quarter in a way of where it's a one-possession football game.
If it does that, I think the Steelers are built for those type of games.
Mm-hmm.
So what's your score? Who's winning?
Let's see. Before I do that, let's get through the chat's predictions here. Right, Christian says 38-3 Steelers. James Fetcho says we beat the Bills, knock the Ravens out. That'll be a Super Bowl for me. Viper 24-13 Steelers. Afton 17-14 Bills. Fetcho says 19-10 Steelers. Steelers Freak 17-14 Steelers. Rams versus Steelers Super Bowl, 2 dark horses.
That'd be nice.
17-10 from Bob, Steelers. All right. If I'm going to give my prediction, Afton says Niners, Baltimore, Super Bowl. I could see that. If I'm going to give my prediction, I'm going to go I'm going to go 2016 Buffalo.
2016 Buffalo. Gotcha.
It's going to be close game, not very high scoring. Malvo says 12-9 Bills field goal game. Don't think that it's going to be too high scoring. I think I already kind of explained what I think it's going to be, and I think that my prediction score kind of tells that a little bit. Might be a couple turnovers. Don't think it's going to be a 10-point spread for the Bills, but it just won't be enough for the Steelers, honestly.
Got you. So for me,
I'm sorry, man. I just got to be real about it, man. I'm sorry.
So for me, I think that, as far as predictions go, I think that it's going to be a closer game for the most part throughout the game. I do think that Josh Allen is going to put the ball up in the air, and the Steelers are going to have some opportunities to come down with it. Yeah. I think if they end up taking those opportunities, and play cleanly, I think they'll win. But
fair enough.
But Bills are tough, man. They got to run. They got a quarterback that can run the ball as well.
Yes, they do. And that's honestly, if I'm gonna say right now, that's my concern.
Yeah, that's the biggest concern for me as well.
Yep,
is him running. Like I said, I think that the Steelers are very well more capable than winning. I think they're actually going to surprise some people and end up winning this game. But I'm going to end up taking the Bills to win this game. And I called it 24-13. And those are all touchdowns. There's no field goals there. It's just touchdowns and 2-point conversions.
24-13 Bills.
24-13.
Wow.
Bills get 3 touchdowns, 3 2-points.
Daniel thinks Bills cover the spread, folks.
Now, I will also say this. Every time I pick the Steelers to lose, they've won.
Yes, they have.
So let me throw that out.
In the back of his mind.
That was also in the back of my mind. I think every time we've chosen the Steelers to lose, they've definitely won. I do think that they can win this game. I think there's an avenue for this game to be won.
Sorry, Fetcho. I'm sorry, man. Just gotta be real here, man. Just gotta be real. I hope we can come back and you guys can shove it in our face.
As far as why it's not a field goal game, it's because of the gust of 50-mile-per-hour wind. I think that that's going to play a role. And especially if it's going side to side, if it's going at, from your back or you're going into it, then yeah, and especially when it's at your back, I think that then, yeah, you're probably going to kick some long field goals, maybe. Right. But if, it's side to side, I don't know. I don't know if you're really willing to go up and kick a field goal and give the opposing team better position. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
I understand
field position is going to be huge.
Thought on that.
I do think that there's going to be some trick plays in this game. Yeah, I think Buffalo does.
Yeah,
Buffalo always does a trick play.
Yeah,
and I think the Steelers will do one as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see them. Yeah,
or maybe just something off the wall. Ray asked, do we think Minka will be a little rusty? It might be a little tight, especially because it's the weather, but having that leadership back is going to be big. It's big for them.
Yeah, 10 to 15 yards out. I mean, even if you're 15 yards out, that's a 32-yard field goal once you factor in the end zone and the 8 yards or 7 yards that's required behind the line of scrimmage to kick the ball. And, I'm concerned that, or not so much concerned, but I think that, there's a chance that there's more 2-point attempts than there are putting it up for risk. You know what I mean?
Sure. Don't
make Boz try a pass. Yeah.
Dude, I will never forget that, man, when during the Browns game years ago and he did that, he got annihilated. You remember that?
Yeah, dude.
He got annihilated?
Dude, Ben has talked about that a lot.
Dude, that was so funny. I'm sorry, but that was hilarious. I know he got hurt, but that was so funny.
I've heard that Boswell can be a talker. And Ben was like telling him some things afterwards. I wonder if Boz had ever told Ben that he can be a quarterback, because Ben was like, he ain't gonna be throwing the ball no more, and this, that, and the third.
Correct.
Yeah. But here's the thing. I think if the Steelers win this game, they're going all the way, man. They're going all the way. I do. I think this gives them the momentum. Okay. If Mason goes out there and lights it up, that's 4 games in a row where he's been productive. Yeah. The confidence, the momentum are going to be through the roof. The Steelers have already beaten the Ravens twice this year. Yeah. I think they go into, Baltimore and play a team that is probably a little bit overconfident. maybe a little bit rusty.
Yeah.
Who knows, man? I think they can. Man, this could be 2005 all over again.
Well, you never know in the NFL playoffs. You really don't. And this year, the league hasn't been good. You have teams that have had a lot of injuries this season, and it's ultimately been wide open, the AFC. But Baltimore is definitely the best team in the AFC. Got to give them credit. But it's a big pond that I think most of these teams can swim in together. And that's kind of really the big benefit a lot of these teams have, is that you don't really have those 2 or 3 juggernaut teams that you have a lot of years. And it is, there is unpredictability. Like I said, I think the league as a whole has been bad. I think the AFC and NFC are honestly just both not very good. But with all that in consideration, the Steelers have an opportunity where if the way the Steelers are constructed right now, this is the year. If they're going to have an opportunity with their current team as constructed, this is probably the year, in the sense of being able to win a playoff game or so, just given the fact where the AFC is. If that makes sense.
Yeah. You know, in a little bit of history real quick before we call it a show, every time the Pittsburgh Steelers have played the Buffalo Bills in the postseason, the winner, obviously the winner, has gone on to be the representative for the AFC in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen again this year. I think that if the Steelers win, they're going to make it all the way. If Buffalo comes around and beats the Steelers, I think they probably are a team that's going to take it too. So I think this is a very important game. Huge. Yeah. Obviously, it's a playoff game.
Yeah, and Ray, I hear you, man. Absolutely. Absolutely, man.
But I'll be back on, guys. We're going to call that a show here. I'll be back on right after the game. We'll be doing a post-game show, obviously, and talk about the Steelers. Hopefully it's in a victory. Talk about, we know who they're going to play next if they win. They're going to go to Baltimore. It's just the way it lines up. We'll talk about that matchup if it happens. If it doesn't, we'll talk about what went wrong and what to expect in the offseason. Who's going to go, who's going to stay.
Right.
But I look forward to continuing doing a preview show next week.
Yeah, I hope so, man. It's good to have another week. Whenever you're a team that gets in the playoffs, anything can happen. We even see how regular season goes. And don't count them out. Everybody is. And I know that I picked the Bills to win. So did Daniel. And I'd say most of the country is going to. But this team does have a shot. They do have a shot. And it might be a small shot, but we might come back here next week where, like Daniel said, we have a preview show. We'll see. We'll see.
We'll see. With that being said,
if not, I'm excited for the off season. I think the off season's too long, but I'm excited for it. There's going to be a lot of talk. I'm gonna leave it at that. There's gonna be a lot of talk this off season for a lot of things.
Yeah, Christian knows what's up. He says, I'm with you. I'm going to do my obligatory bet on the Bills, so I lose knowing the Steelers won. That's the plan. But with that being said, guys, I'm going to leave you guys with this. Pittsburgh's gone.